65% of SDRs hit quota. Every single index of conversion ratios as it relates to outbound is going in the wrong direction. Connect rates, response rates, conversion ratios, you name it. There's not one that's going in the right direction. I think we should treat the first 2 years of any position, anything's GTM related. So your first role out of college is going to be a GTM associate first year, and then GTM specialist second year, and then you go into whatever the role that you want to go into. The idea that right now we still are thinking about putting a lead into a form and then having a physical person have to evaluate that and send it back to us with the power of AI is quite frankly insulting. You know, hackathons, right? With engineers where they pick something, they kind of nerd out on it for a little while and figure it out. Well, I think we should do the same thing to our sales orgs. So here's my tactical advice and thing that I suggest all my clients do.
Hey, John, how's it going, my friend?
Good, Michael. How you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I was just telling you, moved back to my new office. Pretty pumped. You know, it's a sunny day here in Montreal. We skipped the winter this year, so can't complain. How are you?
The same thing. My dream is, I know you were down in Latin America. I got a house in Costa Rica, and I got 3 more years left in me before my daughter graduates high school. And as soon as she graduates, I'm going to at least be spending the winters down in Costa Rica, not here in Boston, because winters in Boston aren't my favorite.
I feel the pain, man. Look, most of our listeners are CROs and VPs. So my goal today is to really break down what they need to do moving forward with AI being the center of everything right now, from SDR or perspective, from their AE or perspective, and also from mid-level management. How can we actually help them be more efficient, be faster, be better without replacing them?
Well, let's break it down, right? There's the inbound SDRs and the outbound SDRs, and then there's the AEs. And I think that entire function needs to be rethought. I don't think I know, because it worked when money was free, grow at all costs. It worked, but it only worked for us as organizations. Because if you really think about it, it's about the least customer centric, the predictable revenue model that we all have grown to love and, whatever. It's not customer centric in any way, shape, or form. Right? I mean, who wants to be handed off 5 times before they actually talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about? I mean, we put these poor kids, these 22-year-old kids with very little business acumen, very little insights into the product. We put them as the first thing that an executive is going to hear from the organization. And we give them very little information to even have a good conversation. We maybe give them a couple of scripts and some cadence tools. And we think, right? It was tolerated when it was grow at all costs. Who cares? All right, fine, whatever. But now that money isn't free, it's not grow at all costs, ROI matters. I mean, the last thing in the world an executive wants to do is talk to some 22-year-old kid that's going to ask him some dumbass BANT questions and not be able to give him some insight into the product, right? So it's always been a broken model, but it was great for us. And the reason is because theoretically you could get cheap labor basically right out of school. You could beat the crap out of them and then become your AEs, and you get the ROI in the long term. But let's put some data to this. 60, and I have all this data. I'm actually writing a whole report on this that I'm going to be releasing. 65% of SDRs hit quota. Every single index of conversion ratios as it relates to outbound is going in the wrong direction. Connect rates, response rates, conversion ratios, you name it. There's not one that's going in the right direction. Okay. Also, the average SDR doesn't even stay at their company for the average is 1.6 years. So the idea of building SDRs to then become your AEs is false. It doesn't happen anymore. So 1.6 years. So all that investment that we give, the training and all that other stuff, you're not going to get the benefit of that in the future because they're not going to be with your company most. And the ones who do stay at your company, by the way, less than 50% of them go into sales. So less than 50%, they go into operations or customer success, or they get out of sales altogether because they're like, this isn't for me. And if your ACV, this stat is scary as hell. If your ACV is less than $10,000, the cost of an SDR to get a client, not to get the meeting, say the client's $10,000 a year, it costs $6,000 of revenue. So the revenue. So think not just the profit. I'm talking $1,000 ACV client. That is revenue. 6,000 of that revenue dollar is associated with the SDR just to get them. That doesn't include the money for the AE. That doesn't include the SE. That doesn't include this. So your lifetime value of that client has to be 5 years and about $1 million for it to make sense.
How do you make money?
Right. So if I'm a CRO out there right now, I mean, if you just take the SDR function by itself and you don't look at the potential benefits of growth or all that, it is the most unprofitable part of your business. I guarantee it. Okay. So, and I'm not saying it's the SDR's fault. I'm actually saying it's our fault as leaders. We have put these kids in this, but we have way over-engineered the sales process. We've taught on technology and process more than fundamentals. So, and we have a whole generation of kids that don't know how to sell. I mean, my keynote right now is I position 2010 to 2023 as the golden age of sales. And I'm sorry, if you got into tech sales after 2010, hadn't been that hard. Like, we've been able to get away with blasting out generic template cadences, setting up disco calls with anybody with a pulse, asking dumbass BANT questions, droning through demos, and letting our SE do the majority of the work. That's been sales for the past. Oh, yeah, and offering a massive discount just to get the deal. Like, that's not selling. You know what I mean? Like, that's not real sales. That's process. That's tech. You know that. So we have a whole generation of kids that don't know how to sell. And now that sales is hard, money isn't free. There's a lot of reps who are freaking out, and also not feeling very good about themselves because they're not hitting their numbers, right? And yet I still see managers pushing down. Oh, more activity, more activity. So I think we need to reshape the entire thing, quite frankly. I think that we need to go back to old school stuff here, but in a different way. I grew up, so my first job was DEWALT, but where I really got my sales training was at Xerox. And Xerox, you went through, and this was actually limited compared to what previous people did, but you went through an 8-week sales training program at Xerox. Typically, you went to Rochester, New York, you sat in a room, and then after after about 2 to 3 months, then you got into like an apprenticeship. Then, and maybe within about a year, you got put in territory. Okay. Now, Xerox has a shitload of money. All these older companies had this. So I'm not sitting there saying small businesses and mid-markets can do that. But I think we need to reshape the expectations and also look at it from a different perspective as it relates to cost. So what I'm positioning is I think we should treat the first 2 years of any position, sales, marketing, ops, anything GTM related. And I want to call it a GTM specialist. So your first role out of college is going to be a GTM associate first year, and then GTM specialist second year. And then you go into whatever the role that you want to go into. In your first year, you're basically an admin support for a full cycle sales rep. And your job is to learn the tech, learn the resources, get business acumen, understand customers, learn how to deal with marketing, learn the tools that the organization is using and all that stuff. So you're literally like the liaison for your sales team to the marketing. You're understanding the tech stack and how it works. You're working with existing customers to understand like the issues that they face, your support there. Then it's kind of like when you go to college. Like when I went to Maryland, the reason I went to University of Maryland was because I didn't know what I wanted to be. Like I didn't want to declare my major at 18 years old. So they allowed me for 2 years not to declare my major. So it's similar concept here. First year, you don't determine your major. We're going to come in and teach you what it's like to be in the GTM world here. And we're going to get you exposed to sales, marketing, operations, customer success. And then the second year, you get to kind of pick a lane. You get to start to specialize. So a GTM specialist role. Now you're like, you know what? I really like that sales stuff, right? And by the way, the first year, salaried position, no fucking commission. There is absolutely zero reason to give commission to a kid who's just going to be picking up phones and pushing buttons on a fucking cadence tool. Like, I do not fundamentally understand why we pay people to do robot work like that. Like, that's just stupid. At this point, it's just stupid. And so that variable cost, it fractures sales and marketing. Like I'm 49, about to be 50, right? When I got a marketing degree. When I got into sales, I've heard about the sales and marketing divide when I got into sales 30 years ago, and I'm still hearing about it today. And you know what the number one reason for sales and marketing divide is? Attribution. We always argue, oh, that's a sales qualifier. That's a marketing lead. I got that lead. It's an inbound. It's an outbound. Who gives a shit where the lead came from? And the reason that attribution is important, mainly is because of our commission structure, because we have to pay commissions to the sales reps who generate this. And if I don't get my commission, I'm pissed. So that's why it's like, nope, sorry, like that goes to that sales rep. No, that's marketing, right? So if we take away commissions, we take away attribution, we put it a salaried position for a year, and we take off the pressure of these kids making 50 dials a day, 100 cadences, and all this bullshit vanity metrics just to make us feel good because we've done activities. We actually can maybe develop these kids the right way and bake it into our cost of sale as a CRO to say, okay, I understand, like this is the role, it's a cost of sale. There's no variable to this. Then in the second year, when they pick a lane, if they decide to go into sales, okay, now we put them into a little bit of a pod. They start making cold calls. We maybe give quarterly bonuses to them based on certain metrics on revenue generation and those type of things. And then after year 2, after they've done a good job, now, all right, you can be a sales rep. You're going to be in marketing. You're going to be in ops. That to me makes a lot more sense and takes the pressure off of these kids and educates them the right way. And I guarantee you will create far more loyalty for the business, which will increase retention of those reps. So therefore, they're going to stay with the organization a lot longer. So you'll get a lot more out of them for that investment that you're making in them.
I love this so much. And you know what, John? Not only it makes sense because I can relate to it. I started in sales 10 years ago. My first sales job, got a shitty training. It was just a bunch of modules, click, click, click. And then I was selling Microsoft solutions to CTOs. I didn't understand the buyer persona at all. I didn't even know such a word existed at the time. I had no idea what the technology I was selling. And many people might argue, okay, the product does not matter. It does matter.
It does.
Like, especially when you're selling
about.
to an experienced technical buyer, you need to know your shit. Yeah. Or you lose respect like this. You already have this disadvantage. They look at you, you're a kid, no business acumen, no support whatsoever. You just got on a call, naked.
Yep.
And you cannot wing it. You cannot wing it.
Well, and also, yeah, you can't wing it. And let's paint this ridiculous picture, right? So you're going to have a kid in today's world. And when I say kid, that's a Boston thing. You could be 80 years old. I'll call you a kid. So I apologize for that. But like you could have a kid who's, first of all, you have to find the right contact information. Good luck with that. Second of all, you have to talk to somebody who's live, right? Get through the trip and catch somebody live. Third of all, you got to get through the gatekeeper to talk to somebody who's, within the persona that you want to talk about. Now you go through that gauntlet, okay? And then you have an executive, like say you're cold calling me, right? And I pick up and somehow some magical shit comes out of your mouth that gets my attention, like that keeps me on the phone. And you actually caught me, right? Like, you know what? I got some time on my hands. What you just said there is kind of interesting, right? And I'm like, all right, now tell me more. Like, tell me a little bit more about that. And if your answer to that is, well, now
let me connect you to someone.
I have to ask you some very basic questions. And then I need to schedule a meeting with my AE a week later. I'm gone. I am gone. I have zero tolerance, zero interest, because if I can't get value out of that conversation right there, there are too many other options out there right now. You might have piqued my interest, but now I'm going to go search them. Like, I didn't even realize that was a thing. And now you're out of the equation. I need to get value as soon as you and I have a conversation. That's why I think actually it's better to have old school sales reps come out of the field and make cold calls, quite frankly. Right? Because, or at least the inbounds. The fact that first of all, the inbound sales role, let's just be clear, there is zero need for the inbound sales role. And I feel bad saying this because I know there's a lot of inbound SDRs in their role right now. There is zero need for an inbound SDR role as it sits today, as far as the way that it's positioned. Because a great example, I'm LinkedIn, all these different groups I'm in. And I'm nobody for LinkedIn. I only have 2 licenses, right? But I wanted to upgrade to the license where I could implement, because I moved back to Salesforce and I want to integrate LinkedIn into Salesforce, whatever. I got my credit card ready. Like $2,000, I don't give a shit. $3,000, put it on the fucking card. Like I want this, right? First of all, on LinkedIn's website, I couldn't do it. I couldn't just click on the button and say, here's my credit card, give it to me. Second of all, I had to put in a request, an inbound lead request. Michael, 3 days later. Insane. 3 days later.
That's LinkedIn.
I get some template email from some
Oh
kid
god.
saying, "Oh, I saw, I'd like to set up a meeting with you." Now, in the meantime, in those 3 days, I did my homework. I realized that I couldn't upgrade to that thing because you needed 8 licenses and you had to be on Teams and all this other stuff. So I couldn't do it. So I said to the kid, "Hey, appreciate you reaching out. Not that I did. Already understand, can't upgrade. I'm not going to have 8 licenses. I only have 2, and apparently you can only do that. So no need for a meeting. I'd still like to meet with you to understand your needs." And the only reason the kid was doing it was so that he could get his meeting
No.
booked, and it's so that he could check off the box that said to his boss he did a good job. There should be an agent that I should have been able to engage with right on that website saying, "Hey, John, heads up, you need 8 licenses for this. You don't need this, da, 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 or here's a link to put your credit card in, whatever." The idea that right now we still are thinking about putting a lead into a form and then having a physical person have to evaluate that and send it back to us with the power of AI is quite frankly insulting. I think it's fiscally irresponsible of you as a CRO. If you're listening to this right now as a CRO and you have inbound sales organization, and if I was on your board of advisors, the first thing I would say to you is, okay, what is your plan to automate the entire inbound process between now and I'll maybe give you the end of the year? More than likely, I'd only give you about 2 or 3 months. And if you couldn't figure out how to transition out, and unfortunately that means I'm getting rid of a lot of reps potentially, or putting them in different roles that they actually have a chance with, I'd be like, you're fired as a CRO. I have no interest in you if you don't see the writing on the wall here with what's happening right now.
This resonates a lot again because I did inbound SDR role in the past. And honestly, because I was like, what am I really doing? I don't even need to do BANT because you have lead scoring, you have company information. What am I exactly doing this? And I bounced on that job because I said, look, what's the growth path for me? I'm learning nothing.
But
Literally, I'm just chit chatting with
well,
people and
that's the other thing, is that they're not learning anything.
exactly.
They're learning a script. They're learning, how to click this button to go from here. They're learning, right? But they're not actually learning business acumen. They're not actually learning how to engage in a conversation, how to truly qualify somebody, how to ask questions that person might not really know. You know what I mean, right? Because our job isn't to convince anybody of anything. It's to influence, right? The difference between a bad and a good sales rep, in my opinion, well, there's a lot, but is manipulation versus influence. Bad sales reps manipulate, great sales reps influence. There is a need to learn how to engage with people and ask the right questions, but they're not being taught that. They're being taught a list of questions that they need to ask so they can check off a box and fill out their BANT form or fill out their stupid medic form so they don't get yelled at by their boss, and their boss can check off some boxes so they don't get yelled at by their boss. And then all of a sudden everybody turns around and says, wait a minute, we're not driving any results. It's like, I wonder why.
I think the bigger problem, John, and you said it, said money was cheap, and that was the playbook. So everybody kind of like pushed toward more activities. And I still see it like 2025 right now, today. You open LinkedIn, you open your email every single day, and I'm like, guys, is this a joke? Do you really get result out of this? Like, I'm really curious. Like, if you get result out of this, that something is really fundamentally wrong with everything we do all together. So let's talk about this. Like, I'm with you. Yes, let's put inbound SDR aside. Then you mentioned about full cycle sales. Great. And that's a fantastic, method. Like any kids, you get them to school, let them just learn about everything and let them choose their path. How should we go about this shift? Because everybody's used to the old way.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a transition, right? I guarantee you, if you polled most SDR organizations, there's at least half the kids in there that are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared to death. And I don't like the pressure of 50 dials. I don't like the pressure. Like, there's just certain people that aren't cut out for like hardcore sales. Okay. I would probably, first of all, you got to have a plan. But if, let's say, this straw man plan that we just mapped out year for 1 year, 2 year, 3, right? Well, you can then put people into those buckets, right? So it's like, if somebody is like, hey, no, sales is my thing. I fucking love this, man. Well, okay. So now you're a GTM specialist. You're going to be angled towards sales, and you're going to be on a pod system with a full cycle sales rep over here. another sales rep who's like, I don't like the pressure here. I don't know if I want to be in sales, whatever. Now they're their GTM generalist, right? So you put them back in and you get them to understand and whatever it is. So I think it's actually not that hard to transition, because I guarantee you there are people within your sales organization that already fit into those buckets. And all you just have to do is do an assessment of their skills, of their results, and of their personality, quite frankly. I think what's missing a lot of organizations, and now there's quite a few tools out there to assess the sales skills and ability of your sales team, right? Where it's not just a disc profile or, those type of things. It's genuinely like, this person is cut out for channel sales. This person should be in this. This person's really a hardcore. This was a person, those type of things. So first and foremost, if I was a CRO of a team that was in this flux period, because quite frankly, the only other option here, Michael, in my opinion, is to burn the whole thing to the ground and start native AI. There's a legitimate argument to be had to literally burn your entire sales org to the ground, throw away all the tech, all the people, and start from scratch with AI native tech and AI native reps. There is a legitimate argument for that today. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think people are important. I think developing skills is critical. I want to give us a chance here. And so the transition to put them in a position where they can be successful, or they can learn, that's where I think we need to go, right? So I do think if you assessed your team and you figured out where they fit, and then you identified, maybe did a blind survey so that, nobody knew except for you, of like what these reps liked and didn't like about their job. And then you married that up, you could put them into, okay, you know what, we're going to put you into the GTM generalist role here because we want to get you exposed to a bunch of stuff, because you said that your skills aren't necessarily perfect for field direct selling, but you have great customer service and success kind of tendencies here. You still get to get access to all this stuff. Whereas over here, you've shown the aptitude for sales. So you're going to be a GTM specialist, and we're going to tie you to one of these teams, and we're going to start to put your commissions, right? And, maybe we'll have to raise up base salaries a little bit, even though I think base salaries have gotten pretty ridiculous for SDRs coming out of school, that's another conversation. I can't believe we pay $80,000 base salary for a kid coming out of school to make phone calls. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But if we get to keep that, okay, maybe raise up a little bit, base salaries a little bit, kill the commissions, put it into a bucket of quarterly bonuses or whatever it is, based on revenue results, based on quality of meetings, you know what I mean? And, start to transition that way. And by the way, the people who aren't bought into it, let them go. Let them go. Be like, hey, thank you. Here's our new world order. Here's what we're trying to accomplish, why we're trying to do this. If you're not bought into this because you're a year and a half into your SDR role and you love selling and all you want to do is make cold calls, and we've shifted that away from you, and we don't think you're in that. Okay, fine. Go find another company that's willing to do that. I don't think this has got to be draconian. I don't think this has got to be, you're all fired. I think this is going to be an open conversation of, like, I genuinely believe right now we're in a scenario where it's like the emperor has no clothes. Everybody knows the emperor has no clothes. Everybody knows this SDR role is a joke. Everybody knows the predictable revenue model is not working, but yet nobody's willing to say anything about it.
You know what's the problem, John? I think some of our senior leaders forget that they're in sales, and what I mean by that is, we pressure our reps to hit their targets. We pressure our SDRs to book meetings. So maybe your job as a leader of the pack is to have these hard conversations with the board. So I know I can assume what they say when they watch this recording. They're gonna say, "Yeah, man, I gotta go in that boardroom and talk to everyone." Yes, this is your job. And if you don't do it, just imagine what happens next year. Why the tenure for a CRO is what, a year and a half?
Yeah, it's so low at this point, right?
So instead of bouncing, maybe this could build a legacy of a huge transformation.
I'll use somebody like Lars Nielsen, Lars over at Snowflake, right? He built, if there's one SDR model that I would follow, it's his. He built an SDR university. Like, literally said, okay, we are not going to do the typical hire SDRs and beat them up, and then, okay, he said, no, this is going to be basically, you are going to get your MBA. And he has, like, support from the top, and he's built all the structure, and his SDRs, they stay there forever. They love working it. They go off and crush it at other organizations, right? And but it is SDR focused, but Snowflake, shitloads of money, they can do that type of stuff, right? But it's having, to your point, like, I guess what you should do is, if that's I got to have the question of the board. Well, then if your numbers are moving in the right direction with your approach, okay, don't have the conversation with the board. You're doing better than 95% of the clients that I see. So there could be, again, Snowflake's SDR model crushes it. Crushes it, and it works. And so if you are one of those top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of organizations that have a true system, treat it like, the profession that it should be, educate, involve, develop, then God bless you. Then go right into your board meetings and say, we're crushing it here. I'm going to tell them to make more calls, whatever. But if you're looking at your numbers like I am and looking at every index going in the wrong direction, connect rates going down, response rates going down, open rates going down, all that stuff, and you think that just by adding more fuel to that fire, it's going to get better, you're going to be one of those CROs that last 1.5 years or whatever it is.
John, let me ask you this. Look, just imagine, yes, I want to fix this. I'm a CRO. I'm the type that, I have the guts. I'm going to go talk to the board. And I sometimes, suggest this to my clients that, hey, I think I learned this from Jolt Effect. And let's start as small. Like, we got this like domino effect. Let's start it with a bunch of people who are willing to actually, walk through this practice, build the case, and then maybe present that to the board. It might take a little bit of time. It's not that you can rush through it, but this way you de-risk it for everyone. But here's the question. Right now we are running our sales organization. Like, our SDR org is outbound. It's not the greatest, but this is how we are doing it. How can we improve it today? You said it, either fire everyone, let's start, restructuring. If we are keeping it, you mentioned enablement quite a few times. Said, hey, Snowflake, they literally have a university. Get your MBA, being an SDR. What should we do? Like, should we start with teaching them about cold calling? Because email, I don't know, man. Like, but you tell me, like, where to start.
Look, I think you always start with the weakest link of this goes back to just outlining your sales process, understanding your metrics, knowing the conversion ratios between the stages, and then picking the weakest link of all that and then figuring it out from there. Right. So I think you can science this out to back into where should you start, where I think but a lot of organizations can't do that. I think what I suggest people do that they can do today is, and this also relates to the advent and just the evolution of AI, is I think we should turn our sales orgs into sales labs. So it's kind of like, engineers, right? How hackathons, right? With engineers where they pick something, they kind of nerd out on it for a little while and figure it out. Well, I think we should do the same thing to our sales orgs. So here's my tactical advice and thing that I suggest all my clients do is Friday, do lunch and learns. Ideally once a week, once a month, whatever. 2 hours on a Friday. Get everybody together. The whole GTM org, by the way. Marketing, sales, ops, engineers, even SEs. Break them up into groups, 3 to 5 reps per group. Okay. And then pick any aspect of the sales process. I don't care what it is. Prepping for meetings, researching accounts, updating CRM, developing demos, coming up with hypothesis, doing mutual close plans, whatever. Pick any aspect of the sales process that is struggling, right? That you have an issue with, whether it's discovery or whatever, right? But pick it very specific. And then tell everybody, all right, everybody, you got an hour. Go use AI, ChatGPT, whatever you want to use. But whoever comes up with a better solution to this problem than what we're dealing with right now wins. And when I say wins, whatever, come up with some sort of like, you're gold star. You don't even have to do compensation, man. Like a lunch with the CEO, an extra day off. Everybody else buys you beer at the end of the day. Who cares, right? Something simple, something fun. And then you let them go. And so now you have senior reps working with junior reps, so business acumen working with tech savvy. You have engineers in there who are probably better at prompting. You have marketers in there with a different perspective, and they're all collaborating to fix a certain very specific problem, okay? And then at the end of that hour, everybody presents their solution to that problem. And then you vote. Which one did y'all like? Love that one. Great. Next week, we're all going to do that. So now it's not only we think we fixed the problem, but now like we are going to apply that all of us next week. And we're going to do it this way. And at the end of that week, the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about the impact that it had of like, did it work or not? And then we're going to pick another thing and we're going to work on that. And it's this constant iteration of picking a problem and then collectively figuring out how to solve that problem. Because with AI right now, it is that easy. Like it used to be like, oh, well, like these kids don't have the skills to be able to do that. They don't know this. Hey, AI, how do you do this? Here's my scenario. Here's the problem I'm trying to address. Here's what our current tech stack looks like. This is the problem we're trying to solve. Give me 5 different options to solve this problem. What resources should I be looking at right now? Could you map out an exact tactically execution plan if I can implement next week for the entire team and then summarize it for me? Like any idiot can do that. Okay.
And you know what's funny, John? If they can't, first and foremost, where have you been?
Right.
But start with that. That could be the first session.
Right.
Learn how to use the thing.
How do I use AI? Like, how do you use it? What's the best way to use it? Like, people ask me, John, how do I get started with AI? I'm like, that's a great question to ask AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do I start with this? I don't know what I'm doing. And it'll tell you. So it's just, but we have to breed that. And because if we don't, first of all, people are like, how do I manage it? Nobody knows what's going on with AI. Nobody. And anybody who tells you they do is out of their mind. Even Sam Altman, like, no, this thing is AGI and ASI real soon. And when that happens, it doesn't need us. Artificial general intelligence, once it gets to that level, the analogy that somebody used was, think of being an adult managing a kindergarten class, right? How easy would it be for you as an adult to manipulate those kindergartners, right? You can, because they don't know anything. So you could tell them anything and they'll believe it because they're just not at your level. AGI is going to be like that for us. So if we don't empower these kids to learn with this stuff, right? And get us as organizations working together, there's no way we're going to survive. So that's my solution. Like, you can evolve however you want to. Yeah, every organization is different, so I can't give you a blueprint of how to go from A to B.
Of course.
But I can give you on a weekly basis a way to get your team collaborating, get your team learning with no money, no extra resources, nothing. And guess what? By doing that and doing it in a structured way, you're going to increase business acumen. You're going to increase employee satisfaction, because reps will feel like they're learning and they're being educated and they're not being talked down to, right? And telling, oh, you have to use these tools, you have to use this solution. It's like, no, we came up with a solution. No. Wow. And now all of a sudden they get highlighted for it and they get ding, 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 that type of stuff. So, if we don't start collaborating and doing stuff like that, we're just all going to get automated out of this process because, I mean, let's be real, man. Like, this shit's better than us.
This is very, very smart. You know who did this? Ashton Williams of Slack was on the podcast and said, hey, we did it for our SKO. I said, look, this is great for SKO, but it's a one-off thing. One-off won't cut it. Things are changing like this. We need this to be implemented as part of our workflow that we never had. So I don't know. I mean, I was not lucky enough, fortunate enough to work for a company who offers such a thing on a regular basis. We had, some superstar guy, flying from somewhere to the, office and say, hey, let's get together for 30 minutes and see, what's up. It won't cut it. And you had a point about like AI is getting super intelligent. At some point, we're all going to be irrelevant. And you can even see it today. It's still manipulating. You ask a question, you go deep, you have your prompt and all that stuff happy, and then it gives you something. And if you cannot think critically, you take that, put your mass, email to all your ICP and burn the shit out of it. But if you ask a simple question, are you sure? Can you give me some evidence? Oh, you're right. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, so what you tapped into, the danger here the big danger that I see is that we've gone from a search engine to an answer engine.
Exactly.
So the search, Google and whatever, we can argue that Google served us up whatever it felt like serving us up. But fundamentally, when you asked Google a question, it gave you options. So there was the perception of choice, right? There was perception of, that's my source of truth. Let me read that a little bit. Okay, cool. Now we've gone to an answer engine where you ask ChatGPT anything, it gives you the exact answer. And inherently that can't be accurate because it's pulling off of the internet. The problem is that so many people, I'm not even saying sales reps, so many people are just lazy as shit. So they're going to take that answer, cut, paste it, and send. And if that's the case, I don't know what your purpose is in this equation. Like
Mm-hmm.
I ask sales reps all the time, like, you don't think you're in trouble? Do yourself a favor. Go into ChatGPT and pretend like you're a potential customer for your solution. So for me, I'd go in and be like, hey, I'm a VP of
Mm-hmm.
sales of a 50-person sales team. I got 20 SDRs. I got 30 AEs. My ACV is this. My da-da-da. I have challenge with prospecting, and I'm looking at the JB sales training program. Tell me what I need to know about it. What are the pros and cons? What are some of the biggest reviews? Oh, and by the way, how does he stack up against the other 3 vendors on top of G2 Crowd? And when you realize in a 5-minute conversation, you get more value out of that than you did some dipshit 22-year-old kid who's going to ask you bant questions and maybe drone through a piece of shit demo, you realize how much in trouble we are. Like, I have no need for a sales rep if all they're going to do is chat GPT it and then regurgitate that question to me, but have no depth. But if you look at chat GPT and AI as a curiosity engine, as a co-pilot, like you said, like, tell me more about that. Wait a minute, where's that coming from? What's a different perspective from this? Hey, could you give me the exact opposite opinion of this and help justify that? Hey, why would this matter? And if you use it that way, it's a superpower.
John, I know that time is limited, so I'm going to put AEs in SDR buckets because we talk about this full cycle sales and having these meetings that help everyone, regardless of like you generate top of funnel or you have conversations. I think it's very clear. Like, you need to do things differently today. You cannot stick to the old playbook, and education is a big part of it. Do you believe your reps burn leads practicing on client calls? When it comes to giving them one-on-one coaching sessions, just don't have the bandwidth, so you get rid of them altogether? Or maybe you notice that your team spends a lot of time on non-revenue tasks like taking notes, updating CRM, or drafting emails. These are the exact challenges we solve for other revenue leaders like yourself. With Sell Me the Spend AI Coach, you can offer your reps role-play sessions at scale while automating one-on-one coaching sessions based on your best practices and methodology. Also, AI will take care of all their non-revenue tasks, like note-taking, CRM updates, draft the email for them, so they can focus on constant improvement while you're focusing on one thing and one thing only: revenue growth. If you're interested in learning more about the clients we are working with or use cases that might be beneficial to you, check us out at sellmethespend.ai. Now I want to talk about frontline managers because there's so many challenges we can talk about. Like, there might be data rich with direction poor, or coaching is not a thing. At least it wasn't for me when I was a seller. So let's talk about how can we actually help them be relevant moving forward.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, again, just like I don't blame SDRs for where they are right now, I don't blame managers for where they are right now either, because fortunately, managers, 9 times out of 10, it's the best rep, right, who gets promoted to be the manager. And 9 times out of 10, that's the absolute worst thing you could possibly do.
Typical.
Because the best rep is usually what I would consider more of an artist in sales, where they're just really fucking good at what they do, and they probably have a stronger work ethic than most. And you can't teach work ethic, okay? And so you have usually somebody who's got a strong work ethic and inherently just understands things more than other people do, and it's hard for them to translate that to other people. And so now you take that person and you put them to lead the group that they were just a part of, knowing that they got some people on their team that are dog shit. Yeah. And now you have to teach that art to those people. That's a terrible thing to do. So, and when they do get into those roles, they get no training on how to coach. So that's why they end up deal chasing, right? They, instead of coaching, they just jump into a deal because that's what they know how to do, right? So, coaching has been an issue, and they don't have any time to coach. I mean, look, I don't want to call out any of the platforms, but like, the call recording stuff, right? The concept of the call recording is great. You can do coaching because now you don't have to listen. Like, you can listen to calls. And then, like, so you got a 30-minute call, right? People say, oh, well, you can just jump to the pricing section. Bullshit, you can. If you want to coach the right way. No, because maybe something you said at minute 5 is what drove that answer, like that question. So I have to listen to the whole thing. Oh, well, you can listen to it on 2x. No, you can't, because there's tone, there's inflection, there's stuff like that, right? Yep. So you might have said the right thing, but how you said it turned the person off. When you said it, right? So for like a legitimate 30-minute call, I mean, maybe you can cut out the first 5 to 10 minutes of bullshit stuff, whatever. So let's call it 20 minutes. Yeah. You got 5 reps on your team doing 5 qualification calls every single week. That's 25 calls. Good luck. Let's round it up to 26 because I'm not a math major, and let's round it up to 30 minutes per call, right? You're talking 13 hours of listening to calls and coaching. Like, nobody has that time. Mm-hmm. This is why I think personally where AI can have the biggest difference. Because the other factor here is the subjectivity of coaching. And I'm going to sound like my dad here for a minute. This generation does not like getting feedback, period. I've seen it too often. And we can talk about the trophy generation, all that bullshit. I don't care, whatever, get your trophies. Again, it's not their fault. It's our fault for giving them the trophies. But I've tried to give direct feedback to younger professionals.
Get offended.
And they literally almost have like an allergic reaction to it.
Cry.
Like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, is everything okay? Like, it's fine. It's like, no, something's wrong here. Like, right. So what happens is you have a manager like me who gives very direct feedback. That rep might think I don't like them, right? Because I favor another rep on the team. So now, even if my feedback is genuine and real, the subjectivity of it, the person receiving that now is defensive about it because I wasn't taught on how to give feedback in a way that you can absorb and is going to resonate with you compared to you. So I'm just going to give you the feedback the way I give it. So now you're offended by what I say to you. Now you go to HR, and now me as a manager, I'm sitting in HR meetings explaining why I said the kids sucked when it was blatantly obvious that the kids sucked and I was trying to give them a chance. So now as a manager, I'm not giving that type of feedback anymore. I'm going to, oh yeah, Michael, you're doing good. Probably should make some more calls, but man, you're doing a good job. You're a great part of the team, and giving this false narrative. So nobody's actually getting coaching. AI now, though, can plug right into our calls. We can set it so we can actually have it listen for very specific things, like how did he do building rapport? Did he discuss next steps? How did he deal with competition? When did the price? So you can literally create a scorecard where AI can listen to the call and then marry it up to how you did on the scorecard and send an email immediately after the call. So now the rep's getting objective, however you want to phrase that, objective feedback immediately. So it's the endorphin rush that they all care about because of the swiping and the whole thing, right? So now I'm getting direct feedback and I'm saying, oh, John, you did a really good job on developing rapport, 9 out of 10. You could have done better on getting next steps. By the way, here's 2 videos you should watch on how to get better at getting next steps. And so now I'm getting direct objective feedback, which I love because I'm getting it immediate. I'm getting tools to be able to improve right then and there. And then all of that data is being aggregated up to a level where a manager can now look and say, okay, systemically across the team, we have an issue with objection handling. I'm going to invest in a training for the whole org on objection handling. Now, you though, Michael, your biggest challenge is X, because I can see that through the data. So now I'm going to coach you specifically on your need versus your need versus your need versus your need. So that's the biggest out of all the areas that I think AI can make a difference in sales. I think frontline coaching is the biggest. I don't give a shit about writing better emails. I don't give a shit about doing better research. I don't give a shit about it. Like all that stuff's fine. But I think genuinely the thing that can make the biggest difference is if you have one of those tools that can do that for you and aggregate the information.
We share the same sentiment and unplug. What do you call this? Like shameless plug.
Shameless plug, yeah.
Like, so I don't know. So we pretty much do this with our business. And the main reason why I'm saying this right now is that for people who say you're going to replace us, you're not doing the job. Coaching is the job.
Yes.
And you just get insight that you need for individual coaching. Even if AI is biased, it's biased across the board. So you don't need to go to HR and get to all this bullshit with the rep. Why you are not trying to be an asshole? I'm just trying to be real with you because data is there. Anyways, look, I love this conversation. If someone from my network or audience listening to this want to reach out to you, I'm sure they learn a lot from this and talk about services that you provide. What's the best way?
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's jbarrows.com is the easiest, right? So that gives you everything. So jbarrows.com. That will give you all my social handles, everything else. You can ping me on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I've hit the 30,000 limit though on that, so I can't accept any more, but you can still DM me and stuff. Actually, Instagram is, if you ever want free, if anybody wants free consulting or advice or anything like that, Instagram's the easiest way. My handle's John M as in Michael Barrows. You just DM me a question. I'll usually get right back to you. And then obviously I got my own podcast, which is Make It Happen Mondays. And then my JB Sales membership, which, I think there's 2 elite programs sold out for kind of one-on-one coaching, but I have Core and Pro. Core is like $249. You get literally everything that I got, and Pro is $849, and that gets you everything. That gets you live events and everything else.
That's amazing, man.
Trying to do what I can
All
to
right.
help everybody level up.
Rock on. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Guys, I hope you learned something new, and until next time, bye for now.